Welcome to the Breakthrough the Bullshit podcast. I am your host, Alice Round. I am pumped to have you here. We are going to really strip back all of the bullshit surrounding nutrition, training, fad diets, everything in the industry so that we can give you education to get the best possible results. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and let's go through all this bullshit. I am your host, Alice Round, and I am excited to be back with you for another episode on another beautiful day. So I am going to chat to you today about, I'm going to take you on a little story. I'm going to take you on a story that is probably going to sound very, very common to a lot of you out there. That is a real story that is about one of my clients that she has said that I can share with you all. And I am just going to take you through it and kind of see where this resonates with you, because I'm sure that it's something that's very common. It might not be at this extreme level, but it's going to be very common with some of you. So what I want you to understand, and obviously as part of this podcast, is that you're not alone, that there's so many other people that are probably experiencing what you're experiencing or the struggles that you're having. And the biggest thing is voicing them. If you don't voice your problems, then how are you going to overcome them? And a lot of the time we just bottle shit up inside of us, and we don't really, we just put it aside. We don't think it's a problem until sometimes you speak to someone about it, and just maybe their expression on their face or how they react or all of those things, you start to realize that that might not be, a normal way to be feeling in your life. So through all my ramblings, what I'm talking about is relationships with food. And it's a really big one that obviously is something that I'm going to talk about a lot on the podcast. But a lot of my clients that come to me, they have severe problems with food that they don't even see when they first come in. So sometimes someone will come in and their goal might be fat loss or strength, but there is so many underlying issues with food that are getting in the way of them seeing results there. So what I mean by that, for example, I had a client I was working with who had that goal. They came to me, they wanted strength, and they were very, very skinny. And they were super skinny, and they were always saying, I want to put in a bit more muscle, and, I want a better shape. And it was really funny because I started working with them and I realized pretty normally they weren't eating enough. They weren't eating enough for strength training. 2, they weren't eating enough for muscular gains. So then when I started to try to push calories in, they started freaking out because their weight went up. Yet they wanted to gain muscle. So of course their weight's going to go up, which is a big thing that girls need to struggle to get their head around. That if you're trying to put on muscle, ladies, the scales are going to go up. Even if you look leaner, the scales are going to go up. So you might come to me and you're kind of skinny fat, say you're 55 kilos, and you might be, when you finish, 58 kilos. But look a lot leaner because you change your body composition. So it's something that we need to get our heads around. My weight has fluctuated a lot, and a lot of that has been to do with weight. Yeah, some fat here and there, and post-comp and all those sort of normal periods in your life. But the scales are just a number, and they're really not a good reference point anymore if you have muscle mass on you. So let's step off the damn scales. Stop really justifying who you are or what you are based on a set of scales that can change 1 kilo, 2 kilos day to day. If we've got our period, if we're premenstrual, if we've drank a lot of water, if we've had a lot of carbs, if we've had a refeed, all those things can affect what we see on the scales every day. So going back to my point of this client and this story is that, so she came to me with that goal, which was completely offset by underlying eating problems that I delved into, which I didn't even know were there at the start. So I found out that she'd been, very anorexic for years, that she had a really bad relationship with food. She wanted to get strong, and she was so malnourished and struggling in the gym. So I had to get her eating more. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's teach her flexibility. Let's get her on a flexible diet. I did start her off on a bit of a meal plan because she needed a bit of structure. She was someone that was that, real OCD personality that needed to be told what to do, which I didn't really want to give her a meal plan, but it kind of had to be done just to get her to eat more because she just wasn't going to do it. So anyway, we started with a meal plan with macros on it, and I explained all that to her, and she was very apprehensive to eat more food. And she was probably only intaking about 800 to 1,000 calories at that point and exercising a fair bit. So I didn't want to crank the calories up a lot, pulled the cardio back a bit, pushed her up to about 1,200, 1,300 with a bit less exercise to start. So it was enough of an increase that she probably wouldn't gain, but, it was a lot for her mentally. She'd been on those calories for years. So anyway, classic ecto body type, so she wasn't someone that was probably going to gain fat, but it was more mental. So anyway, I thought she was doing really well, and she really wasn't putting on weight, maybe 0.5 kilo every few weeks, which was mainly muscle mass, so I was really, really happy. and I was wanting to push things a little faster, but I was like, let's control it here. Mentally, she wasn't coping with it well. Kind of every time she saw me, she was struggling with it. She was saying she felt fat, she felt bloated. She's like, my face looks fat. Her face looked healthy. She had some body fat in there again, which was fantastic. She didn't look drawn out. She didn't look tired. She looked healthy. But to her, she didn't see all those things because she associated this emaciated look, with what was healthy to her in her mind. But then the images she would show me of how she'd want to look, other people in the fitness industry were completely different. So her mindset was skewed at this point of what reality was. And I didn't realize how bad it was and how obsessive she was becoming with it, with the macro tracking and her meal planning. And I wasn't really, I'd never had a client that had been this much of a challenge before. That had been in such a bad mindset about food and their relationship with it that it had caused this many problems. And me as a coach, I never give up, but she was challenging me. I'd get emails, every day, every second day, plus face-to-face, and she was really someone that was like throwing some curveballs at me, like just questions that I've never answered for clients before because they've seen so black and white. But for her mindset was so like obsessive around everything she put in her mouth that she was questioning me about, could she use stevia, could she use herbs on her food, could she have salt, or she was not supposed to have salt, or how much water was she allowed to drink, tea, all these like very minor things that you wouldn't really think about. But for someone that is so used to tracking every single thing they put in their mouth, it's very hard to let go of control of such small caloric changes in their day. And I was trying to get her to be more flexible. So anyway, the big turning point for me was she freaked out one night. And I think she might have posted in my Facebook group and then also emailed me late at night. So of course I'm not on my emails at night, so I didn't see it till the next day. And try to keep those boundaries of email communication with clients. And I got the email and she was freaking out because she hadn't tracked her lettuce into MyFitnessPal for a whole week. Yes, I know. To me, I remember reading the email and reading the post, and I was just floored. It wasn't just the fact that it was about something like that, but it was how it was written. It was written to the point where it sounded like she was going to have a nervous breakdown over this friggin' lettuce. And for someone to be that concerned, and she'd gone to the point of, like how much fiber she'd under-tracked and how much carbs. Like, we're talking lettuce here. We're talking the amount of energy that it probably takes to actually like chew that food, burn that food. It's pretty much negative calories. So, and I looked at this email and I was like, I can't email back to this. I need to talk to her face to face. So I had no idea how bad her situation was until that point, because I think she'd brushed it under the rug to me when she first came to me. And I remember saying to her, are you ready to change? And she was like, yeah, wanting it all. Everyone always wants it all at the start when they can see the clear goal. But when you actually have to put it into action, that's where like you really see the real problems. So can you imagine living with that anxiety around food? That anxiety that you can't even have a vegetable without weighing it or tracking it. And I know there's times that we need to be strict on things like that. If, say, you're competing, you might need to weigh out your vegetables that are more carb dense, so say like your carrots or peas or things like that. But like lettuce, spinach, and I even have a list for my clients. It's like these foods, like go to town on them. Like don't stress too much about tracking those. You might put in MyFitnessPal like salad or a cup, or if you're not someone that's tracking it and you're doing more intuitive eating, then fantastic. You know that they're foods that you just kind of eat till you're full, that are very low calorically dense foods. So whatever method you're going about, there's always going to be a solution. But for someone like that as a client, you can't just turn around to them and laugh at them. You can't say that in your head that's such a minuscule thing, because in their head they've been stressing about it all week. And she was even scared to tell me and worried I was going to tell her off about not tracking lettuce. So of course, from a coaching point of view, you have to get inside that client's head and go, for them, why is that such a big issue? Why is that bothering them so much? And so the way I approached that with her was, I said, hey, has your weight gone up? Of course it hadn't. Nope, exactly the same. I said, okay, great. You're eating more calories than what you actually think and not gaining weight. And when I reinforced that point, that she's at a point with her body that she's an ectomorph, that she's probably not going to gain weight eating more food, And for her, in her mind, when I was saying that, okay, you're actually eating more than what you thought you were, and you haven't gone up in weight yet, you're freaking out about it. And that helped her understand that it doesn't come down to the single individual gram. We get so obsessive about these macros, about being 100% with their macros. And when I first teach macro tracking to people, I like to say that 100% for me with my clients is about the 5 to 10 gram rule. So I say for carbs and protein, you can be within 5 grams either side. And for fats, I like it within 5 grams because fats are obviously more calorically dense. That's if we're focusing in a deficit or a fat loss. And more aggressively, if we're going, say, maintenance or off season or it's just a lifestyle client, we can have a little bit more flexibility with that. It might be more the course of averaging it out over a week. So you might have one day where you're 20 grams over carbs and the next day where you're bang on, the next day you're under a little bit. I don't encourage my clients to be that sporadic with their intakes because obviously we're wanting to have set intakes to balance out your energy levels, your fiber. All these are variables, but if you're on holidays and it happens, like it does happen, you might have 3 days when you're on holidays and you go hit 200 grams of carbs and you meant to have 150 for 3 days. Like, not a massive deal to me. You might drop it down for the next couple of days, or it might just be a week that you just write off in the books. And again, you haven't gone YOLO, you've gone 50 grams over, like for 3 days. If you look at the net caloric intake there, that's 150 grams of carbs times about 4. Can't do maths. What's that? That's okay, so we got 4. Oh my God, my maths is terrible. Don't put me on the spot like this. It's really not a lot in the scheme of things. So I think the thing that we need to remember is that there's a bigger picture out there, and that if you're freaking out over eating a couple of cups of lettuce and not tracking it in MyFitnessPal, there's something else going on with food, because it's not a relationship you want to be in forever. You want to get to a point with your food where you can eat, be mindful, be aware, but not have guilt surrounded to your choices, and take responsibility for your choices. So what I mean by that is, if you go out and you go to a barbecue and there's like cupcakes and cake and then sausages, and then there's also like some grilled chicken on the barbie, nice salad, lots of vegetables in it, like you're not going to go weigh it out or anything like that, but you make a conscious decision to go for maybe some chicken and salad, maybe 1 sausage, not 3, and maybe share a cupcake with a friend. That is a conscious decision at the end of that you're probably not going to have. You shouldn't have guilt around those choices. But if you were going with the mindset where you're like, I'm just going to eat what makes me happy today, and not really be mindful about my decisions, just eat what's in front of me, and you go in and have, go more for 3 slices of cake and no protein and a couple of sausages, and you're not taking charge of the decision that you made there in terms of what's nourishing your body, then that's a completely different situation. So I'm not teaching people to be at the point where it's okay to eat anything. We need to think about foods that nourish the body, but then also that balance of, if you want to have a bite of a cupcake or, a slice of cake occasionally, if it's not an everyday thing, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, and no reason to ask why you can't get results doing that based on, again, where you're at in your fitness journey. Everyone has a completely different fitness journey, and that's something that we need to remember as well. And I coach my clients completely differently. So if I've got someone that we've got a stage and we've got a comp that we have to get to, we have to be more aggressive. We have to be more strict. We can't be as flexible in social situations. But that is a sacrifice they've chosen to make based on the fact that they're competing. And it's a different level of leanness, a different level of conditioning, and we've got an end date. If I've got a client who's a mum and a lifestyle client, and her goal is not to be full on shredded, to be leaner, to be stronger, to be fitter for her kids, then we have no defined end date, which means that we're not focusing on reverse dieting or any of these sort of yo-yo methods. Yes, they do occur even when you're doing it the right way, but we're just focusing on getting her to a nice maintenance point where we can really hold at. And if we have a week where we go backwards with our results because she's been on holiday, doesn't matter. We get back on track and we move back forward again. You don't need to beat yourself up about that. We're all going to have points where that's going to happen, and we make that choice. So I know when I make a choice to go on holidays and say I'm not in a caloric deficit, I'm not doing anything like that, I don't really put too many restrictions on myself. If I want to try something, or I want to have a drink of alcohol, or whatever it is, I make that decision, but I also accept the outcome. I accept that the outcome might be a kilo of weight gain while I'm away, or it might be that my waist measurement goes up. I might look a little bit different, but I know that as soon as I get back into my good habits, my consistent habits back home, I'm going to look back to normal within a week. So unless you're doing crazy extreme damage, you're going on that holiday with the mindset of, I'm just going to go binge, I'm going to go completely YOLO for the week, and then when I come back, I can just undo all that damage. That's a different mindset. I mean going in with a more relaxed mindset, but not a mindset where you're there to do damage, because you're just going to damage yourself longer term. And that's the same with this situation with the lettuce and the client, where we're going back to with this story, is that she'd already done all this damage in her mind with freaking out over something so small. So we just need to be mindful of like the approach we give to food, and always coming back to the core root of why we eat. We eat for nourishment, we eat for fuel, and the more you can remind yourself of that when you're in these situations, whether you're one extreme or the other, whether you're a binge eater or whether you're someone that is more on the malnourished side or the anorexic side, where you're battling with demons with actually consuming food, we need to figure out like where those demons come from and what's causing those extreme behaviors, because those sort of extreme behaviors aren't normal when it comes to food. And I always say to people, you don't want someone to feel isolated if they have a problem. So I'm very open with clients talking to me about stuff and people reaching out and emailing me. I'm completely open to it always. I never ever turn away something like that if someone's reaching out for help. And the big thing I always say, and a big take-home message from this podcast today that I want you to remember, is you need to speak about your problems. Because if you don't speak about them, sometimes you're not even aware of how bad they are. And the other big one is that if you don't speak up about them, you won't realize that other people have the same problem. A lot of you have common problems. They're not individual problems, they are very common problems. So many people are dealing with the same issues, so you need to speak up about it. So your problem is very common. The solution will be very different for everyone and how we tackle it. And we need to understand that it's a common problem, but it's not a normal thing to have in your life. It's not going to help you create life balance. So the faster that you can work on those problems and work through them, then the faster you're going to get to your end goal. So obviously I was someone that battled with disordered eating myself, and that's what's got me to the position where I am today with helping others with it. So if you want to hear about my journey, it was in the first podcast, so you can always jump back to that episode. I will link it below as well. And yeah, that is the big take home message I want you to remember today. So if you remembered nothing from this rambling but that, I want you to focus on the fact that you need to take responsibility for your problems, speak about them, speak to someone about them. It doesn't have to be me, but speak to someone about them that you feel can either help you or help you get some direction in where you're going to go with fixing them. And stop brushing these problems under the rug, because all the mindset problems are probably affecting your fitness problems. If you want a six-pack, or you want more, you want a bigger butt, you want more muscle, but you don't want to eat the calories to put some muscle on, then there's your problem. Or if you're the opposite way around and you want a six-pack and you want to drop body fat and you want to get leaner, but every time you go on holidays you're binge eating and you're pushing your progress back a few weeks, then you're never going to get there. You're never going to push forward. So have a really good think about your goals and about where they're getting you. And that is all from me in this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for tuning in if you've got through the whole thing. I will try to keep them under that 20-minute mark. That's my goal, unless I have guests on when I'm individually talking, so you don't have to hear me rambling for too long. But again, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. You can jump on my website, aliceround.com, and then from there you can obviously inquire about any of the cool programs that we're running or exciting up-and-coming things. Otherwise, just jump on you can download my free ebook, which is also a really awesome tool for anyone dealing with these issues. It's actually all about mindset in terms of your relationship with food. And it's just some simple, quick tips on the daily that if you're having issues with binge eating, food control, that will just help you kind of reignite like what your actual goal is and just focus back on the problem. So that is an awesome little tool. It's free. You just download it through my website. You can just plug your email in and it will shoot you an automatic download. And that will be a very, very handy tool for you. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. You know all my social media deets. Send me a snap. Tell me about what's going on in your life. I want to hear about your breakthroughs. So my Snapchat, Instagram, Ali Round, all the same name. And I would love to hear your feedback on this show and on any others. If you are someone that's had these issues, email me. If you don't want to comment on social media and you really want to just email me direct, then you can just email me any personal issues you're having direct to alice@aliceround.com, or any inquiries to the info account as well. So that is it for me, guys. So signing off, I hope you have a fabulous day, night, evening, whatever time you're listening to this podcast. And I want you to go out there and really find your strength, find what makes you empowered, and have a beautiful, beautiful end to your day. See ya. Thank you for listening to another episode of Break Through the Bullshit. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love it if you could leave a review on iTunes. Let me know, comment what you'd love to see more of, and be sure you've also subscribed on YouTube and iTunes for updates. And if you'd like more info, then you can also add the Team Round Support Facebook page, which is available to access for all of you, and you just simply need to search for it on Facebook.